Hey y'all, so with all of the crazy stuff happening in the world right now, whether it be Diddy and all of these allegations coming out and all of these alleged victims coming out about what they experienced when they were young, or about ISIS and I hate to call her the new trophy wife, but just in case you're wondering who I'm talking about, that story, I thought it would only be right to come up with 10 potential signs of child trauma, specifically of the S type. All right. So I did some research, and here are 10 potential signs that a child is being hurt either at home or by someone else. All right. So you can be on the lookout. The first sign is unexplained injuries. So if they have frequent bruises, burns, or cuts in unusual places, and they have just explanations that don't make any sense, that could be a sign. For example, maybe they said, oh, I fell down the stairs and then fell into the bathroom downstairs. Like stories that just kind of seem really, really all over the place or really, really rehearsed is a sign. I remember my mom and I were playing. We were actually playing and doing like a dance thing. And then she ended up like elbowing me in the eye and I got a black eye. And I remember the doctor, because I had to go get a checkup, she was like looking at me really close and was like, you know, how did that happen? I'm like, we were dancing, but that was the truth. So it was a fluid story. And afterwards I asked my mom, I'm like, why? I was like, she got all up in my face. Cause I was really young. Like she was in my face. Like, why was she standing that close to me? Why was she being weird? Like ask me about that. And then my mom explained that if you have like a bruise or something like that, she could have thought that I was like hitting you or something. So, and I was like, well, why didn't you tell me? She's like, I didn't want you to be scared or anything. So I just let it be. And so, and it was a good thing because that was the authentic story. But if it doesn't seem like this is their authentic truth, then that could be a sign that they are being harmed. All right. Alrighty. The second tip would be sudden changes in behavior. Like if they're withdrawn from friends and family, like perhaps they are used to be so, you know, the life of the party, and then all of a sudden they become really shy and they're to themselves and they're not really, you know, paying attention to what's going on. That could potentially be a sign that something horrible happened to that child. Like if they have a drastic personality change. All right. If they have unexplained aggression, anger, or risky behaviors with substance use or even running away from home or from wherever, that could be a sign. And once again, these are not like this is what exactly is happening. These are just potential signs that you can be looking out for, because if you see a lot of these signs in a child, the chances that they're being abused or hurt could be a little bit high. So just, you know, be aware of that. The third sign of potential harm could be if they are a fear of specific people and places. So if they have a huge reluctance to be around certain individuals or visiting certain locations, if they flinch at the touch or showing extreme fear for punishment or of punishment, that could be a sign. So for example, if you're a teacher, right, and you tell your child, like the student is misbehaving, and you say, I'm going to report this to your parent. If that child starts freaking out and having like what could be attributed to a mental breakdown, that could be a sign that that child is experiencing something really, really not great in their household and are terrified of the ramifications of their actions. But children act out, and someone might say, well, why are they being bad? Because children don't have first of all, their frontal lobe is not fully developed, which means their reasoning mind has not yet been fully developed. And children that are being neglected or hurt or harmed are crying out for help. They're crying out for attention. And sometimes in certain places, in certain homes, they don't get attention from doing good things. They get attention from hurting people or yelling. So that's the only time that they've ever felt seen. So that's what they attribute attention and love to. There are people out here who think that if a man or a woman doesn't physically hurt you or put their hands on you, then that means that they don't love you. So, you know, you have to be where you are. And I remember, I'm not going to put this person's business out there because that I just don't want to do that. But there was a family member that I had whose mom, I found out, was putting the paws on her, and she was a young teen. And I found that out at that point. So I hadn't seen this person in some years, to be frank, or spoken to them in years. So I went up to her and I'm like, you know, I didn't go straight ahead, like, who's putting their hands on you. I just told a general story about, you know, like, asking this particular child, like, do you think it's okay for people to put their hands on you? Because it wasn't like she was spanking her. Like, she gave this girl a concussion, and it's documented, you know, like, this wasn't just some average regular, schmegular, like, stand in the corner type stuff. This was beyond that. She gave her a concussion. And so I asked her, like, do you think it's okay for someone to hit somebody else, like, just in general? And she's like, yes, it is. And I had to let her know, like, and that's why I started doing life coaching for children specifically. But I had to let her know, like, it's not okay for anyone to put their hands on you in certain ways. It's unacceptable. And you don't have to let someone do that to you. You don't have to let someone hit you. It's not okay. It's absolutely unacceptable. And she was like, not like, but like hitting this child. And so then it was like a few days later, and I got a call from this person, from someone else that I'm related to, that's related to this particular child. And they were like, yo, what did you tell her? And I'm like, what? And they're like, yo, she whooped her mama tail. And you know what? That's the last time that her mom, from my understanding, put the paws on her. So I gave her what my mama always told me: out crazy that MFer. You don't have to win, but if I'm going to be hurt, you're going to be hurt too. So, you know, she out crazied her, and, you know, that person's family was trying to say that that particular child was bad and stuff, but they wasn't saying that that child was bad when her mama was putting the paws on her. Only when she defended herself was the child, was something wrong with the situation. But sometimes, you know, you gotta put that into people, because had I not had that conversation with her, would she think that her partner down the line could put their hands on her? Would she have thought it was fine? Because it was okay when the mama was doing it to her. When she got a concussion, nobody had an issue with it. But the moment she stood up for herself and was like, no, such and such told me I don't have to deal with this, and then that's when it's a problem. But all the adults were okay when she was the one being hurt. BS. And I call bull straight up, you know? So that's a sign. Let's see. Another sign is dramatic shift in hygiene or appearance. So if they're refusing to bathe, or on the opposite side, if they are obsessed with cleaning themselves off. So if they are really, really not taking care of their hygiene, or if they're incredibly obsessed with it, those could potentially also be signs. All right. Additionally, wearing overly baggy clothes to hide their body, or dressing really provocatively to expose their body. So these kinds of signs show up differently in different people with different minds. And we're not going to judge one or the other, because if you are being harmed as a child, no one has the right to judge how you express that. That is like those people who were fine with the woman who was hurting my relative, but once my relative back, all of a sudden it was a problem. So we're not going to sit up here and judge, oh, well, such and such dresses this way or such and such dresses that way. People always want to judge, but they don't ever want to help. They always got something to say, but they don't ever want to show up and make a difference. The people that and judge other people, especially children, I find are either the culprit who do these crazy things, or they are an enabler who allow those types of crazy things. Because the only person that will judge a child that is being hurt is someone who is participating in the hurting of children. Period. Okay. The fifth sign of potential abuse in children could be trouble at school or difficulty concentrating, a decline in grades, frequent absences or trouble focusing, and appearing very tired or distracted. That could be a sign of child harm, with a child. That I think is obvious, but like also when you have a certain amount of trauma that you've experienced, those memories are playing in your mind all the time, especially if it's actively occurring. And it's going to be hard for them to focus on whatever's going on in school or whatever they're learning because they're being plagued with much more horrendous things, okay? The sixth thing is age inappropriate sexual knowledge. I know that it sounds so stupid that I'm saying these things, but y'all know how the these platforms be. So I want people to be able to see this because hopefully it can help some child, or behavior, all right? Like sexual behavior. So using explicit language, drawing certain inappropriate images, or engaging in inappropriate play, like doctor or let me show you. I don't even have to get into it. You know what I'm talking about. Excessive curiosity about certain topics as well, beyond their developmental level. So a 5-year-old, it makes sense for a 5-year-old to ask, where do babies come from? That makes sense. But details, a 5-year-old shouldn't have practical knowledge. Like, even if you say to a 5-year-old, oh, it's when a mommy and daddy love each other and then they have a baby. Boom. But a 5-year-old doesn't know, rationally shouldn't know the explicit practical details. They shouldn't know if you put the thing there and you put this and that. That is a huge red flag. And also like the play, like doing things to stuffed animals or to other children or to pillows or whatever. Those are huge red flags and signs of potential things, all right? The seventh thing is physical complaints with no medical cause, like frequent stomach aches, headaches, and other stress-related symptoms. Signs of lower region pain, infections, and or difficulty walking or sitting. That could be a sign of a BU. I remember one of my friends, oh my gosh, this is such a trigger. And I'm not gonna go into detail, but this is why this type of stuff is so important. Man, I don't even know how to say this. So one of my friends, who was a male, had to wear pads, and I'll leave it at that. Because of stuff, he had to wear pads as a child. He had to wear pads. So this is some serious stuff. So I'm certain he would have had a problem sitting down. So pay attention to these things, okay? People can really be going through heck. All right. The eighth sign could be excessive secrecy or avoidance. So guarding their phones, guarding their personal belongings, refusing to share details about their day, seeming over, and then here's another thing where it kind of switches. Either seeming overly reserved or evasive. Oh, that's the same thing. Or evasive in conversation. So if you are trying to get to know this child and talking to them, if they're really secretive, or that could be a sign. Also, if you move their item, if you move their clothing, or you move something that belongs to them and they freak the F out, that could be a sign of child harm. Now, what is the correlation there? I'm not certain. But that could be a sign of child harm as well. Number 9, emotional extremes, so persistent sadness, anxiety, or low self-esteem, acting over clingy, apologetic, or unusually perfect to avoid conflict. So a child that is an emotional roller coaster is a red flag. So if someone, even, up and down emotionally, that is a potential sign that they are being harmed. All right. And then the last thing for this particular video is unexplained. I put the research, but I didn't read all these. I was like, let me just come on here and make a video so I can give my authentic response. But unexplained gifts or money, that is sick. Receiving items or cash from someone they are hesitant to talk about. Developing relationships with much older individuals. So if a child just randomly has random things, like where'd you get that from? And they are hesitant to tell you how they acquired it, that could be a sign that they are being taken advantage of in some of the worst ways possible. All right, so here are 3 tips for caregivers and parents and people who see these kinds of behaviors. These are just some tips for you guys. So 1, stay observant, okay? Notice patterns over time rather than one-off behavior. So don't take this video and whoops, the light turned off. Don't take this video and think oh my gosh, Susie Q has one of these things, and let me just be observant. Be very, very watchful. Pay attention to everything. Pay attention to how the body cringes up when somebody walks into the room. That's not for no reason. Pay attention. And if you do notice things and you ask, don't just ask right out. Did somebody hurt you? Because that is children, that's a lot to ask somebody. But ease your way in and figure out what you need to figure out. And I can say that I know some adults who have failed children, because when I was a child, I noticed, because I pay attention to everything. So when I was also a child, I noticed certain things, and I would go to certain adults and they would just act like nothing. They would just act like they didn't. Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, I know I'm not the only person who realized this. This person didn't do X, Y, and Z because of the reason they're saying. There had to be something else happening here. And sometimes, not all the adults, but certain adults would just try to act like they didn't notice it and brush it under the rug. And to this day, I still don't understand that mentality. I also don't talk to those people anymore. But there's that. The second, let me hurry up, my iPad about to die. The second tip would be to ask, I already kind of got into, but to ask open-ended questions to encourage dialogue without judgment. So make it clear that you are not trying to get this person in trouble for what it is that you are questioning them about, and perhaps frame it in a way where it's not direct, like who hurt you. If you have not earned the right in a child's life to ask them a direct question, go around. And even if you have earned that right, there are certain things you don't know if that child was being harmed. You don't know what that harmer told them. They could have said that they would unalive them and their family if they spoke. They could be terrified, rightfully so, of the potential ramifications of this. They could already be someone who's in the system and is scared because what they're going through here is a little bit less than what they were going through somewhere else. So there's so many nuances into the situation that you have to be graceful and mindful about how you're addressing it and asking questions, so that you do not come across as judgmental, and so that you do not put the child on the defense, because they are already going to be on some level of defense about this if they're experiencing some kind of horrible situation. And then the last thing is act on instinct. If something feels wrong, take it seriously and seek help. you might be the person in that child's life that can save them. And this whole, oh, it's not my business, I don't want to be wrong, blah, 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 blah. Like, that is allowing for a lot of children to stay in the same situations that they're in. It is absolutely your business. Someone might have thought it wasn't my business to pull that particular young relative to the side once I found out what was going on and ask her, come on, what the heck? And ask her the questions that I did. But I know in my heart that now my relative, back to that person, that person, and the child still has to live with this person, okay? So at least now they're not getting the paws put on them. And if that person does try to put the paws on them, they know that they have the right to defend themselves. But if I was just minding my business, that particular child could have spent the rest of her life thinking that it was okay for someone to put their hands on her, and that was actually a mark of love and a sign of love and not a sign of just nonsense. So it is your responsibility to protect those around you in whatever way that you possibly can. So if I missed any signs, please comment below, because hopefully this can help somebody or bring some awareness and save some of these children. Yeah.